All right, let's dive into the poetry of Nana Abeka Johnson. Today we're looking at a compilation of poems, and you know what really struck me right away? Just how it's organized. With chapters like What is Life and Love, it feels like we're about to tackle some seriously big questions, don't you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting how Abeka Johnson sets this whole collection up. It feels like a journey,
Uh-huh.
a deliberate exploration of these big themes, almost like a philosophical roadmap, but through poetry.
And some of these titles, seriously, they just grab you. Like, I keep chasing the true meaning of my freedom. That line has just been stuck in my head since I saw it. It's so personal, so urgent.
There's a real immediacy to that title, yeah. It makes you wonder, what kind of freedom are they talking about? Societal, political, personal? And what does it even mean to truly grasp freedom's meaning?
Exactly. And then there's Why Choose War Over Love? It just hits you right in the gut with that
It
contrast.
really makes you think about those fundamental human values. And it speaks to Abeka Johnson's ability to address these complex issues head on.
So before we get too deep into the poems, can you give us a little background on Nana Baker Johnson? Who is this poet asking these profound questions?
Well, that's what's so interesting. There isn't much biographical information out there. It's almost as if they want us to focus on just the words,
Mhm.
their ideas.
So we're getting to know them through their poetry, like putting together a puzzle.
Exactly. And each poem is a clue, a glimpse into their thoughts and their perspective on the world.
Okay, I'm hooked. So let's jump in. Chapter 1, What is Life? Seems like a good starting point.
It definitely sets a thought-provoking tone, yeah. And right away, why were you born? Grabs your attention. It's not just a question, it's a challenge to confront why we're here, our very existence.
I love how simple and direct that title is. It's like a question everyone asks themselves at some point.
And in the poem itself, Abeka Johnson doesn't shy away from the struggles of life. Like these lines, to live, you must dare to conquer your inner fears and doubts and struggles. To live, you must have courage each day to conquer the unknown. It's not sugar-coated, is it?
No, not at all. There's that rawness there, acknowledging that life is tough, but also a sense of hope, like a call to action.
Exactly. It's the repetition of to live that emphasizes the choice we have. To face those challenges, even when we're afraid.
And that message of resilience is what really resonates with me. It's like Abeka Johnson is saying, life is tough, but you have the strength to overcome it.
And think about your own life, the challenges you faced, the courage you've had. Abeka Johnson reminds us of that inherent strength.
Absolutely. We're all in this together, facing these struggles. And we can not just survive, but thrive.
And that leads us to Chapter 5, Slavery and Freedom. This chapter, especially for those interested in social justice and personal journeys, it carries a lot of weight. You can't ignore the historical context, the fight for basic rights.
And then you see a title like, I keep chasing the true meaning of my freedom. It's like a punch to the gut, making you stop and think about freedom's complexities.
And that word chasing, it suggests it's a constant struggle. Freedom isn't a destination, it's an ongoing pursuit. And true meaning implies there are depths to it.
It makes me think about different interpretations of freedom throughout history and literature. Is it individual or is it tied to society and power?
Great point. What are the things holding us back from freedom? Can we truly be free in a world with so much oppression?
Wow, that's deep. And it takes us right into chapter 6, Injustice.
Absolutely. And here, Abeka Johnson's language gets even more direct. We see a shift from looking inward to confronting societal issues.
Just looking at these titles makes you think, why kill the children? Why choose war over love? Why murder in God's name? They're cries of anguish, demanding answers.
Abeka Johnson uses rhetorical questions so effectively. They force the reader to engage, to be part of the conversation, even if it's uncomfortable.
You can't just read passively. You're drawn in, grappling with the injustices.
And it's not just about pointing out the problem. Look at why protect others but not your own. It makes us examine our own biases, how we contribute to injustice, or how we ignore it.
That's powerful. It's like holding up a mirror to society, showing us those uncomfortable truths.
And that's just the beginning of what we'll find in Chapter 6. But let's take a moment to reflect. What has resonated with you so far? What thoughts or questions have come up for you? We'll be back soon with Part 2 to continue exploring Nana Abeka Johnson's powerful poetry.
Wow, those first few chapters really left an impact. All that powerful imagery and those thought-provoking questions.
It's amazing how Abeka Johnson brings together all these big themes, like life and purpose, freedom and injustice, all within poetry.
You know, one thing that keeps coming back to me, it's that idea of chasing something. Chasing freedom, meaning even answers to those tough questions about injustice. Abeka Johnson's poetry feels like this constant pursuit.
That's a good observation. There's definitely a sense of urgency in their work, like they're always searching for more, not settling for easy answers.
And it brings us back to chapter 5, Slavery and Freedom. We talked about, I keep chasing the true meaning of my freedom. But there's another poem that captures this chasing idea so well. I keep running from mama.
Ah, that's a good one. This one looks at freedom in a different way. The freedom of escaping something painful, a tough reality.
And that image of mama is so powerful. It makes you think of comfort, safety, going back to a simpler time.
Yeah.
But knowing Abeka Johnson, there's probably deeper meaning there, right?
Definitely. Mama could symbolize a lost innocence, a connection to roots, maybe even a longing for somewhere you feel truly understood.
I like that. And it goes back to what we talked about with freedom having so many layers.
Exactly. It's more than just physical freedom. It's emotional, spiritual, even psychological. And that brings up a question for you, the listener. What are you running towards? What kind of freedom are you searching for?
That's a powerful question. And it leads us to chapter 2, Find Your Purpose. It seems to dive deeper into that journey of self-discovery.
Yeah, chapter 2 is like chapter 1, wrestling with those big questions of why we're here and what our purpose is.
And the poem, All Days Are Not the Same, really grabbed my attention. Such a simple title, but it says so much about how life is unpredictable.
It reminds us that life is a journey with ups and downs. Abeka Johnson acknowledges that challenges are inevitable, but they also emphasize the importance of hope and perspective.
There's a line in that poem that really resonated with me. Hold on tight to your faith and your belief in your dreams, for they will give you hope to see the light of day. It's about the power of believing in something bigger than ourselves, holding on to those dreams even when things are rough.
That's a beautiful way to see it. And it connects to another poem in this chapter, God is My Light. Here, Abeka Johnson explores faith as a source of strength.
This one really hit me too. It speaks to that human need to believe in something, especially when we feel lost.
And it's not about just accepting things passively. Like these lines, each day I rise with God by my side. I will overcome all the day's battles with God being my strength. There's a sense of agency there, taking control with faith as your guide.
It's like faith and resilience are intertwined, not giving up, but drawing strength from what you believe in.
And speaking of resilience, there's never give up in this chapter. It's like an anthem to keep going, to never give up hope.
There's a powerful line in that one. Never give up your faith in God, no matter how dark the night be, because the sun will shine tomorrow. A reminder that even in the darkest times, a new day will come.
A powerful image, showing Abeka Johnson's ability to find beauty even in struggle. They don't shy away from the hard stuff, but there's always a glimmer of hope.
It's interesting. We've been talking about life, purpose, freedom, resilience, and now we're moving into chapter 3, Season Christmas. A bit of a shift, right?
This is where things get really interesting. Christmas is usually about joy and celebration, but Abeka Johnson uses it to explore love, loss, and relationships.
I'm really drawn to the poem, Mother Was Precious Gift. The title itself has a sense of reverence and maybe even sadness. It makes me think about Mama from before. Is there a connection?
Good catch. The mother figure seems really important for Abeka Johnson, representing lots of different emotions. In Mother Was Precious Gift, we might see a different side of that mother-child bond. The love, the sacrifices, maybe even the pain of separation.
I'm curious how they'll connect these themes to Christmas. It's a holiday that can bring up so many feelings: joy, nostalgia, sadness, loneliness.
You're right. It shows Abeka Johnson's skill as a poet, finding those universal human experiences in specific situations. Christmas becomes a way to explore love, loss, family, and time.
This is getting deep, and we've just started with Season Christmas. We'll need to pause here for now, but don't worry, we'll be back soon with part 3. To continue unraveling the layers of Nana Abeka Johnson's A Compilation of Poems, I'm still thinking about those emotions in Season Christmas, how Abeka Johnson captures those bittersweet moments and family stuff. It's amazing.
It shows how well they understand human nature, finding those unspoken feelings we all have during the holidays.
You know, we've been talking about this idea of searching and longing for freedom, purpose, comfort. And now we're moving into chapter 4, love. It feels like that search takes on a whole new meaning.
Love is such a big part of being human. Poets have been exploring it forever. But Abeka Johnson has this fresh take on it, a real honesty.
Right away, with Forever in Love. We see that yearning for a love that lasts forever.
That title itself, Forever in Love, speaks to that desire we all have. To belong, to connect, to find that love that completes us.
And Abeka Johnson doesn't shy away from the difficult parts of love either. Like in Love is the Only Color I See in You and Loving You is All I Dream. We see that passionate, all-consuming love.
There's so much intensity in those poems. Like Abeka Johnson is saying, love can be risky and blinding, but it can also change us completely.
But then there's also the heartbreak, the realization that love can be fragile. In If Ever Love Was True, there's a sense of loss and maybe even betrayal.
That's important for how Abeka Johnson looks at love. They don't pretend it's always perfect. They show the pain and the chance of getting hurt.
It makes you wonder, does true love really exist? Can it survive through everything? Abeka Johnson doesn't give us easy answers, but they make us think about all the possibilities and the risks.
And they explore more than just romantic love. In Where Would I Be Without Your Love? There's love for family, friends, anyone who supports us.
That's a good point. Love comes in so many forms, and they all make our lives better in different ways.
And as we get to the last chapter, chapter 6, Injustice, we see how love expands to include a love for humanity, a feeling for those who are suffering.
We mentioned some of the titles in this chapter, like Why Kill the Children? Why Choose War Over Love? Why Murder in God's Name? They're not just questions, they're cries of pain and anger at the bad things happening in the world.
The way they use those rhetorical questions is really powerful, making the reader face those hard truths.
It's like they're saying, you can't ignore this. And that honesty is what makes Abeka Johnson's poetry so strong.
In Why Protect Others, But Not Your Own? And The Rule Must Be Fair for All, we see them challenging the systems that cause inequality.
And in Truth War, there's a call to action reminding us that we have to speak up against injustice.
It's like Abeka Johnson is saying we can't just sit back and watch. We have to fight for what's right and speak up for those who can't.
It's amazing how Abeka Johnson's poetry is both personal and universal. They take these big topics and make them feel relatable.
It shows the power of poetry to connect us through what we all experience. Abeka Johnson's poetry shows us that we're not alone in our struggles and hopes.
What a journey through a compilation of poems. We've only just scratched the surface.
I hope this deep dive makes you want to read more of Nana Abeka Johnson. Explore the chapters we talked about and see what you discover. And let their poetry inspire you.
Pay attention to those repeating ideas, the questions they ask, the honesty and the insights. Let Abeka Johnson's words challenge you, comfort you, and empower you to see the world with open eyes and a caring heart.
Here's something to think about. Abeka Johnson often repeats words and phrases in their poems. What effect does that have? How does it make their words more impactful?
That's a good question to consider. It makes us think more deeply about what we're reading. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Nana Abeka Johnson's amazing poetry. Until next time, keep searching for those things that make life richer and inspire you to make a difference.
Happy reading!